it's all about control. And if you can take it, it's all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about the pain. Who's gonna make it? I am the...
Hello everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at the monster of tier 10 heavy tanks, the E100. I really enjoy this heavy tank. You feel like boss of bosses when you're driving this thing. I mean, it's really well armored. It's got a humongous gun, and it'll bounce a lot of shots, and it's a really great tank. Its only real downsides is that it's so big and it's kind of slow. But it's fast enough to move around the battlefield and react to situations, which is all you really need, I guess, with the heavy tank. Of course, if this was any faster, it would just be OP as hell. So let's get to it. So first off, the armor of the E100. Again, I'm going to be loading up a collision model so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. 200mm upper plate. This thing is pretty much invulnerable. Anything that shoots you up here, regardless of range or angle or anything like that, is gonna bounce. Even face hugging and they're kind of shooting down, it'll just bounce. This thing is pretty much impenetrable. Your real weak spot from the front, you have really two. Your lower plate, which I think is 150mm, but we'll find out for sure in the collision model, and then your turret. Now your turret front is 250mm thick, so when I say weak spot, I mean use that with a grain of salt. But however, it does have a slight slope to it. Versus tier 10s, what people tend to do when they're fighting an E100 is just switch to gold and shoot you in here, this 250mm thick part, because once tier 10s switch to gold, they'll get through it, and they'll get through with ease whenever you're looking at them straight on. So what you want to do with this tank is once you fire your round, you want to make sure this turret is angled. You turn it left or right, and that way if they had to shoot at you at this kind of angle, it greatly increases your armor instead of if you shoot it straight on like this. Of course, if you are angled your turret like that, you got to make sure this lower plate is covered or angled as well, because if you're straight on like this and you angle your turret, they're still just going to shoot your lower plate. This thing can side scrape like a boss. Just whenever you pull out, sometimes I will try to pull out angled and get them to shoot first to bounce, because if you just pull out straight with your turret facing at them, they'll just shoot you with gold again through your turret. So those are some things to be aware of. Now about this tank, its gun is another interesting thing. It's got a 15cm dirt gun, pretty much. It's almost like a tank destroyer gun, with some differences. One, it's got 0.4 accuracy, so the accuracy on this gun is not that great. You definitely don't want to try to be sniping with this thing. I mean, I'll take snipe shots with it, but ideally you want to be engaging at close range. It's got a 2.9 second aim time, which is not that good, but with this tank it's sufficient. The real thing with this is the penetration. It only has 235mm penetration with its regular armor piercing round. That is just not enough for this tank. So you tend to shoot lots and lots of gold, 334 pin heat rounds out of this tank, because 235 just will not cut it. You try going up against IS-7s and whatnot with that, and you could get tore up. So if you see my loadout, I got 10 AP, 25 heat rounds, and 15 high explosive. The only time I use HE is like if I'm facing a waffle or some really soft skinned vehicle, or if I'm facing like a Moss or another E100 that's angled so well and I just cannot pin them, then you could switch to HE, because the gun on this is big enough that regardless of what tank you shoot, if you hit them with HE, it's going to do damage. So with the gun, again, you need to fire a lot of gold out of this gun. But it tends to do so much damage per shot that as long as you're not missing a lot, you tend to still make credits. So yeah, you'll find most people shooting gold out of this. It's just a normal thing with this particular tank. Now, on paper, the armor, when I say it can side scrape, it has 120mm of side armor. Now, that's not taking into account the side skirt, and it's not taking into account the tracks. And so we'll go over that in the collision. because the side armor is actually better than that. And if you are driving another E100, never shoot a fellow E100 in the side down here, because your heat round just will not penetrate the spaced armor. That's another thing with this tank, is spaced armor is your enemy. You don't want to be shooting tanks where their spaced armor is at, because you just won't penetrate, because the heat round dissipates so much between hitting this layer and hitting the main armor, the main side armor of tanks. And that goes for any tank, like IS-7 for instance. You know, you hit them here, hit these tracks or something, or up here it's actually spaced armor as well. So you just got to be careful with that. But this thing right here, this E100, can handle any threats on the battlefield. This thing can really dish it out and take punishment. It's got 2,700 hit points, the second highest in the game. The only tank that has more hit points than the E-Hundy is the Moss. It weighs 130 tons. It has a 1,200 horsepower engine. It has a top speed of 30, but I think I cruise a little quicker than that actually in game. Its turret traverse is 22, and its 20, and its track traverse is 22, so it doesn't traverse too quick. If you get caught out in the open, a light tank or something, or a leopard, they can circle you. So just be aware of that. This thing doesn't turn too fast. The turret doesn't turn too fast. Reload rate. Now I've got a 4-skill crew with Brothers in Arms. My equipment, I use a rammer, improved ventilation, and vertical stabilizer. That's the equipment I use for my E-Hundy, and with all that, my reload is still 16.51 seconds. So just be aware that your reload is much slower than most other tanks you'll be facing. But at the same time, when you pull out and another tank pulls out, even if you take damage, you're probably going to be dishing out almost twice the damage that you took, because this gun is just so much damage per shot. I mean, the gun can be aggravating and glorious at the same time. It's awesome pulling out and derping a tank for 900 damage. So anyways, let's go take a look at the armor model. Alright, so here we are at the World of Tank Viewer collision model for the E100. And I'm going to go over some of the armor thicknesses that you need to know about with this tank. So we'll switch it to collision. First off, like I was saying, this upper plate up here is 200 millimeters thick. This is pretty much invulnerable. You don't really have to worry about getting hit here by anything. You'll bounce pretty much everything. Your lower plate, like I thought, it was 150 millimeters thick. This will bounce, even unangled, will bounce a lot of tier 8 guns, but tier 9 and 10 tend to go through. If you can get your rear up like on a slope or something and you're backing up and can increase that angle, though, it'll start to bounce shots. But your best bet to bounce shots on your lower hull here is just to angle your tank. You have really excellent side armor. Now, in World of Tanks, it says you have 120 millimeters of side armor, which you do. Let's take away that, and let's take away the spaced armor. So this right here is all 120 millimeters thick. No weak spots. But you have to add on to that. You have to add on the spaced armor, which is 60 millimeters thick. And then you have to add on your tracks, which I think are 30. No, they're 40. So you have this 60 millimeter plate, your 40 millimeter tracks, and then your 120 millimeter actual side armor. You know, so 220 millimeters of armor on your side. You know, someone hits you here, it's got to get through 220 millimeter of spaced armor. The whole thing is spaced. Even if they don't hit this part, they hit your tracks, which counts as spaced armor. So side scraping with this thing is boss. When you side scrape with this, the only place they can pin you is your turret. Like I was saying, this is 250 millimeters thick. But tier 9 and 10 gold rounds can get through this. So you have to angle this thing's turret. The name of the game with E100 is all about how you angle the tank. I mean, it's extremely important. How you angle this tank is how you'll live and die by. Your gun mantle is extremely strong. I wouldn't worry about that. It's 250 with armor behind it, and it's sloped, so you get hit in your gun mantle, it's gonna bounce. People won't shoot you there. They're gonna shoot you, like I said, in this zone. The gun itself, you got -7 degrees of depression, and elevation goes up to 20. So no real problems there. Again, if you are playing on a hill or something and you're using your depression, you actually increase the slope of this, so it's not quite as bad, when you're shooting up at it like that. But always just be aware that if your gun is reloading, your turret has to be angled. You want to keep this thing angled, about like that. If you angle it like that, we can even look at the, let's say, APCR. So if you have your tank straight on and you get shot right there just like that, see how that line is? Your effective armor thickness is 285 millimeters. So that's still not bad. 285 millimeters armor is still not bad. But like I said, tier 9 and 10 guns, if they switch to gold rounds, can get through it. But if you angle your tank like that, first of all, if they hit your side armor, the effective thickness of your armor is so great. I mean, this right here becomes 108 millimeters thick. Then it's 218 your actual side armor. Your tracks at another. I mean, it's not going to go through. Okay, don't worry about your side armor. Your side armor is boss. So when you angle this thing, I mean, it's crazy good, the side armor. Like I said, the real thing that most E100 drivers do wrong is their turret. That's where you'll get in trouble, is your turret. So you got to constantly be aware. If you angle your turret like this, and let's say you get shot here, that's 346 millimeters of effective armor. You're going to bounce. Pretty much anything that hits you there is going to bounce. And that's it if they hit right here. That's like the best place for them to shoot you. But if they hit you like over here, it becomes a ricochet. If they hit you up there, it's 400 millimeters of armor. 367. And if they hit you like in your side here, that's 258. So maybe you want to about right there. Yeah, that's 300 millimeters of armor. And that's again, if they hit you right here, normally they'll shoot you like right in here. That's 340 and 340. So I mean, you angle this thing's turret and you'll bounce just about it. But you've got to remember to do that. Your only other real weak spot is, of course, your top up here. This little bar on top, which I think is 150 millimeters thick. So, but it's an extremely small target, and you shouldn't really be standing still too much with this tank for them to get that shot off. Whenever you pull out, or let's say you're in a situation where you can't, side scrape or hold down or whatever, and there's just a tank in front of you, and you have no choice but to sit there and slug it out, which will happen with this tank because it's so slow. You want to angle your tank, angle your turret. You hold down the right mouse button in game, it locks your turret, so you can drive around but keep your turret pointed how you want, and then just back and forth, wiggle this tank around, move it, make it a hard target for someone to hit. Don't ever make it easy. And if people do not take careful aim with this tank, they're probably going to bounce, just because the armor is so good. The lower plate, what I was telling you about, that your other main weakness on this tank is from a straight on shot, about like that, let's say, is 264 millimeters effective. Let's see, you can decrease it a little more. 230 millimeters, 234, 230 effective. So yeah, it's a weak spot, but it's not that much of a weak spot really, because I mean it's still 150 millimeters thick. And then when someone gets close to you, if someone's like, let's say an E5, which would be about this height, if they try to face hug you and then shoot down into your lower plate, it becomes pretty much unpenetrable. Like at this close range, the angle becomes so great, it's 403 millimeters effective. And your upper plate is still really good too. Punching through this thing's upper plate, most tanks will not even try it just because it's just so hard to do. If a tier 10 tank destroyer like an E3 face hugs you and shoots down with its gold round, it might be able to get through, but generally anything hitting that upper plate is going to bounce. And with heat, this thing will gobble up heat rounds, because heat rounds are just not as effective as APCR. So those effective thickness I was telling you, that's with APCR, which is superior to heat. So your armor only becomes better when someone shoots you with a heat round. So the armor thickness is just worst case scenario. You're getting shot by like an E3 or a 263 or something. As far as from the rear, of course, you know, if you get shot in the rear, like any tank, I mean, it's still 150 millimeters thick. Besides this little dome thing, which I think is 100. Yeah, it's 100. So if you get a medium or something on your rear, you can still angle this thing. I mean, it's still 150 millimeters thick. So angle it like that, and put your turret a little farther over when they're behind you, and they can still actually bounce. Even your rear is 150 millimeters thick. I mean, this thing is really well armored. This thing, you will bounce a lot of shots. The main area that you definitely don't want to get shot is right in here. That's where Artie is going to attempt to hit you. Right in there, if you have your turret turned, you know, like that, this is only 40 millimeters thick. So artillery will penetrate and do full damage, but most of the time Artie rounds come in too shallow for that, and they hit your tracks, they hit your turret, and Artie never penetrates you if that happens. So this thing generally can take Artie hits fairly well, but just 1 out of every 50 they'll get a lucky shot up here and get full damage on you. But it's not very often, so it's really not an issue. But overall, the armor of this tank is one of the best in the game. Extremely well armored, tons of hit points. Now that I've told you about the armor thickness of what you need to know, when playing this tank, one more thing, when playing this tank, definitely be aggressive. Be aggressive. Do not sit and snipe with this tank. The gun, it just will not do it very well. You're an E100. You're the boss of the battlefield. Move forward and attack. And wherever you go in any map in the game, always try to find a side scrape position that you can side scrape out of. Because this thing, like I said, is one of the best side scrapers in the game. So on any map, anywhere you go, attempt to find a side scrape position where you can, anything, a rock, a dead tank, anything that you can side scrape and angle your turret and keep that lower plate covered. And you do that, and this thing will put out the damage. Now let's see it put it into practice. Let's look at some replays. Alright, so here we are, E100 in Ruinberg standard battle. The king of the ring. This thing, berserker for sure. I like putting emblems on. Every tank I own, I have, for every tank that I'm going to keep, so all of my tier 10s and all my premiums, they all got little emblems and little bling on them. Usually this is the only one that has that one. Normally I put the Death's Head emblem. Anyway, to the game. So I'm using this T95, the Doom Turtle, as my mobile pillbox. The E100 is actually just tall enough that if you get behind it at T95 like this, you can shoot over them pretty nicely. And if you are behind one of these Doom Turtles like this, you can angle your turret. See how I hold down the right mouse button there as I'm driving? Angled my turret. That's how you want to stay with this tank whenever you're facing enemy tanks. Make sure you keep that thing angled. Extremely important. So the other E100 and our 57's going down that left road to my left. I don't really like to go there too much because Artie tends to be able to shoot that road pretty well. And the enemy team where they're clustered at over there where that M103 is, they've got a nice little wall thing they get behind and where they can just stay hold down, and that gives them the advantage, and I don't want them to have the advantage. I want to have the advantage. So I generally stay away from that road. Right up here, I can corner fight, I can side scrape, I can do all that good stuff with the Doom Turtle. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. And a wild tortoise appears. 865 damage in one shot. As you see, angling my turret as we move forward. It's just a tortoise. I don't have to worry about it too much, really. Just keep it angled. He'll bounce. Want to work with this T-95. He's a good player, and he's in a tank that is even more heavily armored than my own. And an enemy T-95. Now, I remember saying this gun's not a sniper. Aiming for that top hatch, but didn't happen. The whole time you're city fighting in one of these things, again, you got to constantly watch that mini-map and be aware of what's going on around you. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I want to continue to engage here, but I'm aware that things are going to be coming around us pretty soon. Can't get a shot on the E4. And right here is where you want to shoot a 95. 722 damage. That's where you want to shoot a 95. Okay, so I see the tanks behind us. Just an M103. I know he doesn't have the top gun, top turret, so I'm going to go over here and help him out. I actually wanted to... I was confident that I could actually take these tanks over here solo. But I was hoping to get the M103 to go help the T-95, because if either we lost this side or the T-95 went down and they started pushing around, then I could get, you know, tore up pretty good. But for here, these guys, they don't want none. They see Mr. E. Hundy coming, and they just want to back up. They're not wanting to taste this 155. So I tell the M103, help the T-95. I got this. I got these guys. They ain't nothing. I got these guys. Decide to take the M103 out first, because it's easier to corner fight against a TD than it is a tank with a turret. So the Tortoise has a better gun and a much higher rate of fire, but he's an easier opponent to take out. So again, just side scraping and an IS-8. 776 with that hit. He misshoots. They angled there. He didn't penetrate my armor. Between the two, I definitely got to get rid of the Tortoise first. That DPM's got to go. All right, he's down. I have flat armor to that IS-8, so he was able to penetrate my flat side. But like I said, you angle this thing side, and it'll bounce everything. IS-8, of course, he's much quicker than the 100. There's no way I'm catching this guy. So I was hoping maybe he would stop. I mean, you never know with pubs, right? They can do strange things. So I'm like, I thought about turning back the other way. Decided just to keep going around. Our T-95 finally went down, but he held them long enough for me to clear up our rear. T-57, side of his turret showing. Boom. I like that the way this gun sounds. It sounds like an arty gun. And Spartan 1336 from the FCF clan says, "Fuck you, Ironhide." Yeah, you're the one that's the smoking wreck that I'm driving past. I know that. So anyway, all they have left is an E4. I don't get a shot on him. He dies before I do. But we end this match with 4,883 damage. E100 like a boss. This tank is awesome. Let's look at another one. Alright, for this replay, we're on Siegfried Line in the E-Hundy. Another good, any of these maps that have cities and whatnot that we can do close fighting, the E100 is an extremely dangerous opponent in cities and corner fights and stuff like that. They do have 3 arty though, and I'm very aware that I will be one of their priority targets as usual, because they're arty, and my disdain for them knows no limits. I'm going to speed it up a bit, get to the action scenes. I'll show you what I was actually looking at in the battle. And as I'm driving past this little opening, I get a little bone thrown towards me. Oh, look, an IS-8. That's what I'm talking about. That turret bounced. He just shot an AP round at me, which is just not going to go through. If people shoot just regular ammo at you, they will tend to bounce almost anywhere on your tank, other than your lower plate. I'm seeing E100. He was shooting gold at me, but it didn't go through. So I'm waiting. Speed it up a little bit. Yeah, let's talking about that already. So I took a hit from him. I know he's got to reload though. I was hoping for this E100 to pull out and show me some of that flat turret armor so I could pin him. But after waiting there a while, I decided the RD's going to be reloaded soon, so I gotta pull out of that area unless I want to get tagged by RD yet again. I'm like, okay, I'm not getting any action over there. Let's move over this way. I see we're kind of light over here. I move up. Now again, I know this is like a danger zone with RD, but it's kind of a tug of war with me whether I want to expose myself to RD or, you know, do damage. And I always want to do damage. So I take a shot at the proto, doesn't go through, and then I bounce around from the I think it was the Leo out there, and there's that RD I was worried about. I get my loader back in action. So far I've lost almost half my hit points and I've only done one shot of damage. And this WZ right into his commander's cupola. I need to angle, There we go. And the IS-8 helps me out and takes that guy down. Alright, speed it up a little bit. I pull back a bit. Just waiting to see how it develops. I don't have a ton of hit points. Oh, IS-8. And he did not get through my side armor. Again, side armor of this tank is truly boss. What's the IS-8 gonna do? Is he gonna come after me? Nope, he's backing up. I gotta get him down. Down he goes. Okay, so now we're at 2,498 damage. Starting to get better. Again, smart trades with this tank. Make smart trades. Unfortunately, I make a really stupid trade here because I thought this tank over here on my left, the Jag Panzer 100, I thought he had just fired, but that was either the 183 or the E100 over there that fired. So he got me for 930 damage, and I tag him back for 859. So that puts me up to 3,300, and that 183 I think was aiming at me, and the STI took the hit for me. And Jag Tiger, there's another 898. I mean, this thing's gun is absolutely brutal. It can really put out the damage. Alright, I'm going to speed it up again a little bit. Again, just the angles, constant angles. You got to be aware of where your hull's facing and where your turret's facing. It's the name of the game with this tank. Looking to see if I can get a shot on the E-Hundy. We'll pull back out. Didn't penetrate. Angle. He bounces off. I mean, as soon as you fire with this tank, as soon as you fire that gun, angle immediately. If you do that, you'll bounce shots. But you got to make sure, I mean, as soon as you hit that trigger, you're turning your turret. Otherwise, the tanks will be able to pin that turret. Can I get a shot on the 183? Not with these guys poking in front of me, I sure can't. Moving forward, up, E100 with this rear turret towards me. Down he goes. Alright. So I know they only got 3 tanks left and then 3 arty. That T-49 right there just jerks our Jag Tiger in the rear with his dirt gun. But that thing doesn't reload too quick and it's not too accurate. I'm going to see if I can't take some of him down. And there we go. 742 on the T-49. Okay, now again I'm watching, aware of arty. I can just feel them wanting to click on me. So trying to get back into cover so arty can't insert a shell into me. Now, I could go help with that Jag, but I see the IS-8 moving up as well, and I'm very aware that Leo 1 is still in the field, so I want to deal with that Leo 1. The Leo 1 is the best player they have left on their team, so he is really the main threat here. I come over here thinking I'm going to get some free kill. I thought I was just heading towards that Leo, but I guess not. Oh, there's arty. You gotta always be aware of that, where arty is, and if you're in cover and whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to speed it up a bit. Now I'm going after that Leo. I don't want him to get our arty. No hit on him yet. Our 62A is AFK. And then the Leo, thinking he's alone over here, gives me a nice side profile. That's the end of the Leo. Speed it up again, get back in towards the city. That way arty can't get me. There's one of them. And then right here, now, this is Sixth Sense. See my little Stewie icon going off? So I know I was spotted, so I know arty is around here somewhere. So I'm telling my team, help, I'm lit. If he hits me, he does enough damage per shot where he's probably going to kill me. He may not. It just depends on, RNG, but I'm not sure exactly where he's at. And then bam, he pops. And again, this gun, definitely not a sniper. Aim, and it just goes right over. Fortunately, he fired as well, and I don't know if he hit the building or what, but this round nothing happened with it. Anyway, we end this match 5,475 damage and 3 kills. E100 pure boss mode. This tank. Again, if you are looking for a tank to grind for, this is a really, really fun tank. Alright. Alright, so here we are on Abbey in the E100. I'm going to just speed this one up. I'm going to do this replay fairly quick. I just wanted to show you this thing, what its HE round does to some tanks, and just thought this was a fun little replay. So let's speed it up real quick. My team, this little scout was saying go to the middle and whatnot, and that's fine. Like a TD or other mediums want to go there, but don't head to the Abbey. I would say if you're in E100, generally I don't do that. I don't think it's a good idea. I normally like to go on the 1-2 line on this map, and the reason why is because the 1-2 line can control both caps from the little cliffs, and you're not stuck. If you go the 8-line road, you're stuck on that 1-lane road, and I just don't like that. Also, when I go on the 2 line, I like to take this path instead of going around, instead of going like where those tanks are going. I like taking this path because sometimes you can get shot right there at like D1 when you come around there. So I prefer to take this because you have more cover and you're safer. So anyway, that's why I'm heading this way in the E-Hundy. I almost head this way on almost any tank I play on this particular map. So we're going up here. I'm facing some fairly good players. Let's see. They got the E50M on the enemy team. I can't pronounce his name, but he's got a higher win rate than me even. But he's only got 7,000 battles. Kinda low to be so good. It almost makes you think he may have played the game before. Maybe. So let's move up. And again, I just want to start laying the damage out. Object 430, And when I was talking about that spaced armor shooting heat, so I hit his track, and it didn't have enough penetration left over after I went through the track to get through his side. Really try to avoid doing what I just did there. T-62A, brute force through the turret. Now I had a lucky roll there. That was a really lucky roll. Normally you won't get through a 62A turret. Not with this gun anyways. That thing is an extremely strong turret. But he's down, so now I can't get caught in a crossfire. And bounce that. Yeah, ain't happening. And this thing's reload, you gotta be real careful, because it's got a glacially slow reload, 16-second reload. And that E50M, Mr. 7K Battles, putting a shot into my rear. I derped T44 for 864. But now, again, one of the things you'll notice constant when I play is always watching that minimap, being aware of what's going on. Now I know we got a lot of tanks here, but they're coming into our base. So again, I'm E100, definitely not a fast tank, but I want to win, and I play to win. So I want to get to our base to prevent them from capping us out. E50, my round goes wide. I don't get the hit on him, and he fires back but bounces. And I don't want to snipe at long range with an E50. So, speed it up a bit. I'm coming over here and I notice, wait a minute, I have a shot on the E100. So I aim at him. Now this, again, you don't want to snipe at the E100 normally. My round went totally wide, didn't even hit him. Alright, so I'm going to try again. There we go. Side of his turret for 699. And can I get another one on him? It didn't go through, and he moves down so low where I can't get a shot on him. Alright, so I need to be moving back to our base. And guys, when you're playing, if you ever have the option to either go defend your base or go attempt to capture, it's always better to go back to defend. It's always better. Your odds of winning are a lot better if you go back and try to defend than if you try to cap out their base. Unless it's like one tank, you know, and you know he cannot possibly make it back. But in a situation like this, excuse me, it's always better to go back, excuse me again, to defend. So I'm coming up here. I see there's a waffle up there and a one-shot E100. So I switch to HE. Now you hit a waffle in the turret with this thing's HE round, and it will cripple that tank. If it doesn't outright destroy him, it will cripple that tank. You can do over 1,000 damage a shot. So he bounces once, bounces twice. HE to the turret. Say good night, Mr. Waffle. And I just keep the HE loaded because that E100 was one shot, but now he died. So we just have an Artie and the E50M. Mr. 7K Battle, 3094 win 8. So I'm heading over here. And there's a little bit of shit talking going on in the match, so I will participate. So we're coming up here, and I know that he's probably still sitting up there. Well, he's probably shooting up our E75 right now. So I tell him, let's find out if those purple stats are real, shall we? Let's put them to the test. Let's see if you earned them, son. Let's see if you earned them. Talking mad shit. Mad shit to this guy. Let him know that I think he's... I think I'm going to crush him is what I think. And then... that was dangerous. Now, if he was able to get a second shot on me and keep me tracked there, nothing I could do. But luckily, my crew was good enough that I repaired and was able to get out. Because I couldn't get my gun low enough to get a shot on him. And then coming up, I shoot him in the one place that'll bounce that round, his upper plate. So after that mad shit, then I bounce on him twice with a 16-second reload. Yeah, I know, Rutger, Mr. from Kimbo, that was horrible aiming. But I do redeem myself 850, and at this point I thought that he's going to go side on to the IS-8. The IS-8 should be an easy kill for him. I mean, the E-50's got his side to him, but couldn't get it done. I don't know why. And then our 207 takes out their Arty. And I'm thinking, is the E-50 going to go up the 6 line? Because if so, I'd turn around and I'd try to cut him off. But he looks like he's staying there and trying to shoot out the IS-8. So I say, okay, I'm gonna go after him, attempt to chase him down. And yeah, our IS-8 was too pro right here. Let's speed it up a bit. I'm coming around. I know there's no way if he just runs I'll ever catch him. But I'm hoping that Arty will spot him or whatnot or something. Now here, our Arty gives his life, but slows down the E-50 enough that I'm coming up on him, coming up on his rear. Oh yeah, oh yeah, I got you now, buddy. Yeah. 2 purples entered the match. 1 purple survived, is all I got to say about that, buddy. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my guide, my replays, my information about this tank. Please subscribe, and I will see you next time.
Play the game, you're gonna be the slave, you're gonna change your name, you're gonna die in flames.